You know, for literally thousands of years, humans have been chasing the benefits of a good sweat. From ancient earthen pits to fancy modern spas, we just love heat therapy. But today, there's a huge debate raging in the wellness world. Do you go with the classic, steamy, traditional sauna or the high-tech, deep heating infrared sauna? It's a hot topic for sure, so let's dive in and see what all the fuss is about.
Here's the game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with a little history, then get into the nitty-gritty of how they actually work. After that, we'll check out what the clinical research says, compare them on all the practical stuff, and then hopefully help you figure out which kind of heat is the right one for you.
Okay, first up, ancient heat, modern science. You see, to really get this debate, you have to understand that while one of these is brand new tech, the basic idea behind it is, well, it's as old as civilization itself.
Check out this timeline. We're talking about a practice that goes back to at least 2000 BC in Finland. I mean, that is ancient. You've got variations like the Korean Hanjungmak that have been praised for centuries. But then look at this little twist. In the late 1800s, John Harvey Kellogg, yep, the cereal guy, creates these incandescent light baths. That's really the great granddaddy of the modern infrared sauna. It just shows you how one idea is ancient and the other is a pretty recent invention.
So that's the history, but how do they actually make you sweat? This is where everything gets interesting, because it all comes down to the core difference in how they work. This is the absolute key to the whole debate. And honestly, it boils down to this one simple, crucial difference. A traditional sauna is like a bonfire in a room. It heats up the air, and then that hot air heats you up. An infrared sauna, though, that's more like the sun's rays on your skin. It skips heating the air and sends infrared light waves that warm your body directly, from the inside out.
Let's break that down just a bit more. That classic Finnish sauna uses a big heater to get a pile of rocks blazing hot. You toss some water on them, and poof, you get that amazing steam and humidity. The infrared sauna, on the other hand, uses these special emitters that create light your body can soak up, raising your core temperature without making the room itself nearly as hot. And this different way of heating leads to a totally different vibe, a completely different experience. Traditional saunas get scorchingly hot. We're talking up to 100 degrees Celsius. That's why you're usually in and out in about 15 or 20 minutes. But infrared saunas are way gentler, operating at a much lower temperature. This means you can comfortably hang out in there for longer, sometimes up to 45 minutes.
All right, so they work differently, they feel different, but what about the health benefits? I mean, that's what most of us are really after, right? Let's get into the science of sweat and see what the research actually tells us.
So to get some real answers, we're going to lean on this major 2018 systematic review. Now, this isn't just one random study. This was a massive analysis of 40 different clinical studies, covering almost 4,000 people. So this is the real deal, giving us a huge overview of the health effects.
And what were all these scientists looking at? Well, this chart says it all. Almost half of all the research was focused on cardiovascular disease. That tells you right away where the big scientific interest is. After that, you've got pain and rheumatological conditions, and then general effects on healthy folks.
And some of the findings are just wow. For instance, a massive long-term study in Finland found that frequent sauna use, we're talking 4 to 7 times a week, was linked to this, a 66% lower risk of developing dementia. I mean, just let that sink in. 66%, that is an absolutely huge number.
And as we dig into the specifics, things get really interesting because you see powerful evidence for both kinds of saunas. The huge Finnish studies link the traditional sauna to these incredible risk reductions in high blood pressure and even dying from any cause. But then you see other studies where far-infrared saunas were the ones that really helped people with chronic pain get back to work. So you see, it's not about one being better. It's about what they might be better for.
And the list keeps going. The research also points to some really promising evidence for a whole bunch of other things. We're seeing studies that show improved lung function for people with asthma and COPD, a lower risk of things like pneumonia, temporary relief for the aches of rheumatoid arthritis, and even better symptoms for people with chronic fatigue syndrome.
But, and this is super important, we have to be real about this. The science is incredibly exciting, but it is not a close case. The authors of that big 2018 review were very clear in their conclusion. We need more and better research, especially when it comes to any potential downsides. So it's a field with a ton of promise, but there's still a lot to learn.
Okay, the science is cool, but let's get down to brass tacks. What does this all mean for you, practically? When you're thinking about things like cost, time, and installation, how do these two really stack up against each other? And here's where the differences really start to pop. Heat up time? It's no contest. An infrared sauna is ready to go in 10-15 minutes, while you could be waiting over half an hour for a traditional one. And cost? Again, a big win for infrared, both when you buy it and on your electricity bill. Even setting it up is easier. Many infrared models are basically plug and play, while a traditional sauna often needs a pro to install.
So let's sum it up for the traditional sauna. The big pros are that authentic, super hot, steamy experience you can control, a much larger body of research behind it, and no risk from electromagnetic fields or EMFs. The cons? Well, your wallet's going to feel it. You have to plan ahead for that long heat up time, and for some people, that intense heat is just too much.
Now, for the infrared side. The pros are pretty tempting. You get a gentler, more comfortable heat, it's way cheaper to buy and run, and it's so much easier to install at home. But the cons are really important to consider. There's just not as much long-term research, you do have to think about potential EMF exposure, and they aren't recommended if you have certain skin conditions or specific medical implants.
And before we wrap up, this is the most important part. This safety warning applies to both types of saunas, no exceptions. You absolutely should avoid all sauna use if you are pregnant, have unstable heart conditions, low blood pressure, or if you've had any alcohol. Seriously, no matter what, always talk to your doctor before starting any kind of sauna routine. So with all of that on the table, the history, the science, the practical stuff, it all comes down to a personal decision. Which type of heat is actually the right one for you?
You know, when you boil it all down, it might just depend on what kind of person you are. Are you a purist? Do you crave that blast of intense, steamy heat and that whole classic, almost social ritual of a sauna? Then yeah, the traditional sauna is your match. But if you're more of a home wellness enthusiast and you value convenience, lower costs, and a gentler heat you can relax in for longer, then the infrasauna is probably calling your name. Which brings us to our final question. Is the future of wellness hot and steamy, built on a tradition perfected over thousands of years? Or is it radiant, a focused, modern technology designed to fit right into our lives at home? As we've seen, there's no single right answer. The choice is all yours.